Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jonathan Mays from Clore Leadership. I met some of you yesterday, but for those that didn't, I'm a white man in my early-ish 40s with a greying beard, dark hair, dark glasses, a brown shirt, and a grey jumper. It's nice to be back for our final session, and it's nearly it for our main conference programme. Having covered a lot across our 3 plenary topics over the last 2 days and hopefully given you all lots of food for thought. Thanks again to all of our speakers, to our partners Arts Council England and to Inc Arts, and to our conference sponsor Green Park Executive Search. Before welcoming Anisa Moridadi for our closing address, can I encourage you all to do 2 very quick pieces of feedback for us? Firstly, there's a poll in the main chat window to your right. So you have to press, I think, on event and then go into the poll area. There's a poll there. It's 2 questions. It will take you about 30 seconds to answer. And we would love to get your feedback in that respect. In a minute, we're also going to put a short survey link into the chat window. Again, that's only about 6 or 7 questions. We would love to get your feedback on this year's conference and potentially what we should be thinking about doing in next year's conference. Do please take a few minutes to do that for us. Thank you. And now it's a real pleasure to welcome Anisa Moridadi. She's founder and CEO of Beatfreeks and one of our trustees here at Clore Leadership. Anisa has set up multiple companies and initiatives, all of which exemplify her passion about youth, art, and redefining the way we think and work. She's won multiple awards for social enterprise, youth development, and cultural leadership, and is the youngest person to receive an honorary doctorate from Aston University, as well as being awarded a Sky Academy Art Scholarship in 2015, recognizing her as a future cultural leader in the UK. Anisa, it's lovely to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I'm blushing. So yes, my name is Anisa Moridadi. I am dual heritage, English and Middle Eastern. I'm 32 with dark brown. I'm 31. Why did I just say I'm 32? I'm 31 with dark brown hair, and I'm presenting today from my home in Birmingham. And it's so brilliant to be here delivering the closing address. And I'm just hoping that I can keep composure, because I spent this morning listening to Adele's new album. Knowing that there was this moment happening today with the release of this sort of long-awaited album, I felt really compelled to see for myself what the hype was all about. So I got up early and snuck downstairs to have a listen and a bit of a cry, along with probably half of the UK. Crowd mentality, the way that people act in groups and the way that individuals inform each other's actions has been of interest to me since the start of Beatfreeks, when I first got a taste of behaviour change being the key driver of cultural development. I was utterly compelled by the idea of art for social change, that creativity had a role to play in shaping and encouraging, or in certain circumstances, discouraging particular ways of being, of thinking, of interacting. In society, the way that citizens behave impacts the culture of that place. And in business, the way that employees and owners behave impacts the culture of that work. It feels a bit obvious to say this, but this is a huge moment for culture in the UK. And the jury's still out on which direction the crowd are going to take, from whether they'll continue to wear masks or head back into offices, or will reorient their aspirations around a new set of values. So what will be the behaviours driving the future of work, of life and play? In this period of epic societal change, all we can really be sure of is that the future is forever coming. And the future is only ever imagined, stood here today in the present, looking back at our past. So what do we actually know about the future, and more specifically to the themes of the last couple of days? What do we know about the future of governance, decision-making and power? What behaviours in those arenas might drive the kind of cultural change that we seek as a sector and a society? Now, I'm going to lay out my agenda immediately. I set up a youth engagement and insight agency, Beatfreeks, because I believe that for businesses and government to be more relevant tomorrow, they must be influenced by young people today. And I believe vehemently, I love that word, that young people are the central driving force to creating all kinds of culture, from changing language and fashion and taste making, to shifting generational values, to putting pressure on those in charge to do things differently, to do things better. Young people are taking this right the way up, the way that organisations make decisions, how they set policy and strategy, how they represent its people and communities. They, whether they're using these exact words or not, are imagining a new wave of governance, one that puts people and planet at its core, that sees sustainability as the true bottom line, and that decolonizes inherited practices that only centre one voice or one experience. But it only works if they're enabled to work hand in hand with those who hold the reins today. So if we agree, and I hope we do agree, that we need to not just hand over power to young people and communities, but that we need to create more power with them. How does that change how we approach the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years of the boardroom? And what if it's not just about adding planet onto your standing agenda item, or improving accessibility, or having a rotating community member as a trustee, all of which are important? But what if it's about a more radical imagining of what's possible? A revolution in the boardroom. What does that look like, feel like, taste like, sound like? Who's leading it? Who's talking about it? Are you in there? What role are you playing? Who's listening? Who's not? The private sector is looking to Boardroom 2030 and what the people, priorities and processes will be that will solve tomorrow and today's problems. But the cultural sector, who've been leading the charge at making these arguments prominent through the work, through the conversation that the work drives, we need to be at the helm of accelerating this governance reimagining. We are the artists, the dreamers, the architects, the community builders. But now we need to be the governance anarchists. We need to make these conversations about power, decision-making, accountability, urgent and undeniable within our sector, our organisations and our world. But how? Well, going back to my own experiences and indeed my own agenda, I think we should see young people as our allies in this fight for a fitter and fairer future. These futurists, who hopefully have decades ahead of them, are considering the longest term version of how we can build society back post-COVID, and are active in debating what role organisations, charities and brands have to play in that, covering a lot of the themes over the last few days. One of the things that's been made really clear throughout by Gen Z as well as others is that matters of equality, diversity and inclusion are not going away. Pressure has mounted in all corners of industry and has held a firm place in mainstream narratives created over the last 2 years, from demands to increasing Black and minoritized people in positions of leadership, to challenging ableism in the workplace, to expanding our understanding of the rich multitudes of gender identities that exist. And we're now seeing the growth of environmental, social governance agendas, the ESG agenda in businesses. Hopefully more than just another acronym, but actually an understanding and a recognition that inclusion isn't just about marketing and HR under the promise of representation, but it's time to be embedded in all parts of strategy, whether you're a FTSE business, a small community association, a national charity, and everything in between. It's time to build the institutions of the future, to radically reimagine our governing processes, policies and systems, to work hand in hand today with the futurists and the visionaries, the young people who will take and lead on this work. And it starts with our own behaviours like showing up for this conference, the conversations you'll have as a result of it, the pressure you'll continue to place on those around you, and the action that you'll collectively produce. Those behaviours are the only way to change the culture of governance, and therefore to have happier, healthier organisations, workforces and communities. So whether you need to behave or misbehave to make this change, do it. Do it now, do it today, do it wholeheartedly and courageously, because the world depends on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anisa. The world really depends on it. I can't say how amazing it is to hear you say those words. And I can see from the chat some are responding and really picking up on what you're saying. It's so true. Yeah, let's return to the idea of a youthquake. Brilliant. Anisa, we've got 1 or 2 minutes if you want to take any questions. I'm not going to suggest that we have to. I think we can probably leave it there. But just out of interest, as a final question for you from me, because you're relatively new to Clore Leadership's board, I'd love to hear from you what that experience was like over the last sort of 6 to 9 months, especially as you started in lockdown. You've come into this place where some people might assume that we're an organisation that has an austere and highfalutin board. Have you been able to create a youthquake with Clore Leadership?
I think we're starting some of that process. I mean, it's a few months in, but it's been amazing to just hear and listen and understand what Clore does, how it sees itself, how it wants to be seen, and how the sector sees it. So that's a bit of a politician's answer, but I think it's early days. But I'm excited to see what happens and what we can achieve together for sure.
Yeah, a politician's answer is right. It was an unfair question to ask you, but we're delighted to have you with us.
Thank
your
you
energy
so
and everything that you're doing in the sector is amazing. Thank you, Anisa. I'm going to do a couple of short things to close up and then let everybody go, because I think people are probably hungry and want to have a stretch and so on. So thank you, Anisa, so much. That's the end of our main conference program. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you all here. We've been delighted with all of the chat on the Hopin platform, with some of the chat on Twitter and everybody engaging. Thank you so much. I need to say some specific thank yous to people here at Clore Leadership first, particularly Freya Gosling and Jackie Malcolm, who have been the ones who've done all of the hard work to pull this together. Thank you to them. They've been amazing. Thank you to our Cultural Governance Alliance partners. You'll see some of them this afternoon at our breakout spaces and workshops. And thank you to Green Park, our sponsors, to Arts Council England, our partners, and particularly today to Ink Arts for their sessions this morning. They were amazing. You've got until 5:30 p.m. to rewatch recordings from the main stage, to carry on with networking here on the platform, and to leave your feedback on the Miro board. We'll be sharing all of the session recordings after the conference, so look out for emails from us on that front. And we do want you to keep the conversations going, not least in this afternoon's workshops, but also please use the hashtag GovNow21 on Twitter, on other social media. Stay in touch with us via the Cultural Governance Alliance mailing list and website. We'll put a link in the chat for you shortly. And talk to each other. It's been wonderful to see all of that discussion, all of the ideas, and all of the energy. It's great to see that around cultural governance. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And we will see you soon. Bye-bye.